Let's talk about the actual process that you go through when you're becoming a US citizen. So, assuming that you qualify and everything checks out when we do your eligibility screening, then you will be able to begin to prepare your application, or we can prepare it if you choose that representation option. But the application is prepared and then it's submitted to the government. The application itself is mostly just a long form called the N-400, and then there's a lot of supporting evidence that you have to submit just depending on the details of your life. But that gets submitted. You probably, you've been through a lot of steps so far in the immigration process, so you remember, getting a receipt notice and how they confirm that yes, we received your application and it's pending. They will again take your biometrics. So you've also done this a few times already, and you'll have an appointment given to you to go into a local USCIS office where they'll take your fingerprints, they'll take your photo, they're going to run all of your background checks again to make sure that you haven't gotten in trouble since the last time you had some process done at immigration. To make they're trying to see if you're eligible to become a US citizen. And then you typically, when you go in for the biometrics appointment, they'll give you some information about what you need to study for the test, and so that you're prepared by the time you come back for your interview. But all of that information is actually also available publicly online. But basically, you'll want to be studying that because after that is when the government will assign you an interview date to go in, where you'll be both interviewed and you'll also be taking your test at the same time. So part of the interview is just checking the information that's on the form, like, do we have your birthday correct, and is this your current address, and where do you work? And they're going to check they have a lot of eligibility questions about, have you ever been a terrorist or tried to overthrow the government, or just all kinds of crazy stuff that they'll ask to make sure that you qualify. And they'll also go ahead and just do the test right there with you. So the current way that the test works is that the study materials actually have they have 100 questions about U.S. history and geography and different important things that have happened in the United States. So it's not like they can ask you anything about anything. There are 100 questions. You memorize the questions. They do publish the answers to the questions, so you don't have to look them up. You just memorize what the answer is. And the day of your interview, the officer is going to randomly pick 10 out of those 100. So they're not going to give you a 100-question long test. They're going to verbally ask you 10 questions. And so they'll ask you the question, and they'll type in your answer, and then you just have to get 6 out of the 10 correct to pass the civics and history part. And they don't tell you, they just sort of like keep writing down your answers and asking you the question. And then when you get to the end of it, they'll say, yep, okay, well, you passed that portion. And then for the reading and writing, and sort of the English part of the test, part of the English testing is that they're going to be interviewing you in English, and they're wanting to see if you understand what they're asking, if you're able to respond. When they say, oh, right this way, or please stand, that you can follow those instructions. But it's pretty basic stuff for the most part. But so for the reading and writing, in most USCIS offices, they currently have tablets, like iPad type things, on like kind of in front of you on the desk, and they will pull up a sentence in English. It's written in English, and they'll have you read. They'll say, can you please read the sentence to me? So it might say something like, who was the first president of the United States? So you'll just look at it and you'll just read, oh, who was the first president of the United States? And then you get up to 3 chances. They can give you up to 3 different sentences to read. If for some reason there's a word in there that you just can't read at all, or you have difficulty, they'll give you up to 3 different sentences to try to pass the reading portion. And then they'll clear the screen. They will give you one of those like kind of stylus things to write on the pad, and they'll clear it so it's just an empty box. And the officer will tell you what to write. And so they'll write. You'll write, they'll kind of dictate to you. So they might say, please write, Washington was the first president of the United States. And so you'll write it on the tablet, Washington was the first president of the United States. And then, they'll tell you whether you pass that. You also get potentially 3 different sentences to write, to try to pass the writing part of the test. And so those are all the pieces of the test and the interview. If everything goes well at that point, then they will go ahead and recommend you for approval, and they're going to put you in line to get assigned to an oath ceremony. So the day of the interview, you don't become a US citizen, even if you pass all the tests and everything. You actually come back for a formal legal ceremony. Sometimes the ceremony is in a USCIS office. Sometimes it's in a federal courthouse. Sometimes they have them on special locations, like on 4th of July, they might have it at a famous landmark or something like that. But they will let you know, okay, when you've been assigned to go to your oath ceremony. So then you go to the oath ceremony, and at that point, it's actually the legal process of you becoming a US citizen, and they give you a certificate of naturalization, and after that is when you can, apply for a US passport and update your social security information and register to vote, because you'll be eligible to do that after the oath ceremony. So it's a really exciting day. The oath ceremony is low stakes. They give you the oath in writing, so you just read it. You don't have to memorize things. It's a group ceremony with lots of other immigrants, and you get to invite your family, and it's just a really fun, beautiful, very moving day to celebrate, after your entire immigration journey, getting to that final step. So that is the overall naturalization process.